the biggest mistake most people make is either hiring too early or hiring the wrong person. That's not to say you can't build a great team if you hire the wrong position or you hire too early, but it does mean it's gonna take away from some of the profit that you can inject back into the business. In 2018, I needed to make my first hire. I had just scaled past $20,000 months. I needed to leverage my time to increase sales and smash through marketing. My first ever hire was my brother Benson. He was driven, he loved the gym, he loved football. We had both played at the Division I level, and he grew up in the same household as I did with my father, who instilled a very rigorous work ethic into our lives. I remember the day I hired him, it felt like yesterday. So me and Benson went to live in South Carolina in a small apartment together and continued to sell security alarms for a security company called Alder. Now, just a few weeks prior, my business had finally started taking off, and so Benson actually had to start knocking by himself. On this particular day, Benson walks through the door, and I can tell immediately from his face, he is completely dejected, demoralized. You could tell that the guy had just gotten a million doors shoved in his face. And I look at him, and he just puts his back against the wall and slides down the wall slowly. And I look at him and say, dude, do you wanna get out of here? Do you wanna stop doing this? And he just looks at me and shakes his head, yes. And from there, I actually offered him a position to come work in my company, and then the rest is history. I originally hired Benson as a coach to handle all my fulfillment, and it took a little bit of time to show him the ropes, the systems, and the processes, but he was really hungry and really driven to learn and make money. Now, I love my brother, and he's one of the hardest workers I know, but looking back at this now, I would suggest if you can to go and find someone who has prior experience for the position you're trying to hire for. This speeds up the learning curve, and part of the process of finding A players is people who can come in and tell you what to do and not the other way around. In my case, I was new to business. I had no idea how to hire, how to train properly, even how to set up management or SOPs, but that's exactly why you're watching this video, so I can show you exactly what not to do. Now, in terms of what to pay, the safest thing is to pay per client if you're doing some type of fulfillment, or to pay on a commission basis if they're in sales. That way, if the business has a down month or you're in a slump, that you're not paying out more than the company makes. Now, in Bets's case, I paid him $100 per month per client, or $200 per month if he got an upgrade or a client to re-sign on the service. The goal is to make the business as safe as possible, so you want to avoid salary positions if you can. Later on down the road, as you get more advanced and experienced, people will demand salaries, but in the beginning, it makes the business really safe. This leads to the second stage of hiring, which will be one of the most important roles you can possibly have inside your business. This person is in the trenches every single day, and their sole priority and goal for you is to DM or call as many leads as possible and get your sales calendar booked. Now, what is this, you might ask? It's the setter. I hired my first setter, and her name was Kim. This was another example of hiring someone who didn't have a ton of direct experience, but was hungry to learn and make a lot of money. However, she did have prior sales experience, so if you can't find someone who has direct experience, meaning they've done exactly what you're trying to do, then find someone who has indirect experience, where in this case, someone who's been in sales, but they haven't done the exact type of sales that I was trying to accomplish. Anyone can send messages, but it takes a particular person to qualify the prospect, gain information, and then lead them down a path to book a sales call. Around the $20,000 to $30,000 mark a month is when this type of hiring should be done. Since this is one of the most important roles, this is not a time to offload the messaging to someone who can barely type. If your first line of defense is cracked, you're either gonna get destroyed by bad leads showing up on the calls, or you're not gonna get any calls at all. Both are gonna be super problematic in scaling your business. Luckily for myself, I was stacked with sales calls, and so there was only one direction I was heading. At this point, not only is my business scaling, but I'm starting to become a new person. I was learning how to become a better leader. Now, was I the best leader ever? Of course not. But it was the first step in scaling to 7 figures and beyond in less than 12 months. The second time you should hire a setter is when your first setter is getting overwhelmed by too many messages in the inbox or by working too many hours. This is typically around the $50,000 plus a month mark, where your first primary messenger will get moved into more of a managerial role in addition to their messaging, where your secondary messenger will come in and take on the overflow.